أهم شيء أنخش. I didn't. Dear guests, welcome to the UAE Pavilion at COP28. We would like to bring to your attention that the following session will be broadcasted via live stream on our channels. We seek your kind support and mindfulness during the presentations. Thank you for understanding and enjoy the session.
Yes, please. You can join me. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. We are delighted to be hosting you here at COP28 in the UAE Pavilion. As a nation located in the heart of one of the world's most water-scarce regions, the UAE is very concerned about the rising threat increasing water scarcity poses to the world. Left unchecked, the medium and long-term implications of global water scarcity will be immense, leading to a range of devastating consequences from food insecurity to involuntary mass migration and geopolitical instability. Water scarcity is accelerated by factors including climate change, population growth, and continued economic development. As the international community, we cannot allow these threats to materialize. It is imperative that we take action. In September of this year, the UAE Ministry of Foreign Affairs published a detailed discussion paper on the subject, on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly in New York City. Titled Ripple Effect, the paper outlined the UAE's concerns about the increasing threat of global water scarcity and warned of the potential consequences if we do not take action to address it. The UAE's discussion paper also identifies a number of potential water solutions, such as supply, demand, governance solutions. However, it concludes that various solutions that we have at our disposal today will not be enough to prevent the range of undesirable scenarios from occurring. We need solutions. New solutions are urgently required. As you may have already heard, last week, the UAE pledged $150 million in new funding for innovation to address water scarcity. Both the publication of the discussion paper and the recent pledge are just the first two elements of a new UAE-led effort to catalyze action on this issue. Unfortunately, there's unlikely to be one silver bullet that can solve this complex problem. We are going to need a host of measures across policy, finance, technology, and innovation. To that end, I'm delighted to be joined by our four esteemed individuals who already work actively in different ways to develop solutions to water scarcity and its many forms. Joining me today is Claire Saka, Head of Climate for the US-headquartered global nonprofit, The Nature Conservancy. Also, Tala Alam, Sustainability Lead for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia at PepsiCo. Sarim Khurshid, CEO of the youth-led organization Why Waste in India. And Tim Wainwright, Chief Executive Officer for the Global Water Access and Conservation Organization, WaterAid. We are excited to gain insights from your wealth of experience, so thank you for being with us today. Claire, let me start with you. Can you begin by telling us the Nature Conservancy's approach to addressing water scarcity? There's a mic here.
Thank you very much. Sure. So, TNC is very much in alignment with your analysis around water scarcity being a hidden threat to global security and to global prosperity. And we've looked at our own work and found that a quarter of the locations that we're protecting with significant amount of fresh water are also globally at extreme or high risk of water scarcity. And we know, obviously, with the Nature Conservancy, we've been looking at the natural solutions, and we can see that there are, in many locations, in many ways, nature can play a critical role in reducing water security risks and increasing drought resilience. There's an opportunity through watershed management and through regenerative food systems, and TNC is part of the International Resilience Alliance. There's also been a paper that TNC is producing at the moment around nature-based adaptation solutions for tackling drought and floods. So we're looking at how to begin to understand the role that can be played in many locations around the world. We also really agree with the report about how critical governance is. In ensuring these natural climate solutions deliver the transformation that's possible for people and planet. So getting that right and helping communities at those local levels work out the set of solutions that will work for them, many of which might be natural, some of which will need to be built, but getting that right level for both sides is critical.
Thank you. Tim, WaterAid is the largest international NGO working on water sanitation. No worries. Sorry. No worries at all. WaterAid is the largest international NGO working on water sanitation and hygiene. It is active in 27 countries and also works on global advocacy. How important is governance in relation to water scarcity, and especially when it comes to reaching the last mile?
Well, I think it's absolutely vital. Thank you very much, by the way, for inviting me to speak today. And it's great to hear the announcement from the UAE. It's great to see at the COP more people coming forward with pledges around water. So yes, governance, yes. One of the things I sometimes say in climate conversations is that a big difference between mitigation, trying to slow down climate change, and adaptation, resilience, at which water is one of the central issues, is that mitigation is largely gaseous. Therefore, you can think about it globally. But in the field we're mostly focused in learning to live with climate change that we can't slow down, we can't prevent. You have to think about liquids and solids mostly. And you have to work in a specific geography. And nature, as Claire said, forms a very big part of this, working in harmony with nature. And in that, so like in a watershed, for instance, you then have to think about who uses the water. The nature needs the water. People use water. Farmers use water. Industry uses water. And how can you manage this in a sustainable way? And so it's not really possible to do that without a functioning human governance system. So it's really important. It's really important to have some form of regulation. It's really important to have a capable water utility who is delivering water to different users. And it's really important to see collaboration go on between the different entities that are using the water. So, and sometimes it's referred to as sort of locally led adaptation, which I think is a really helpful way of viewing the issue.
Thank you so much. Tala, you have been spearheading an initiative in Saudi Arabia to coordinate business commitments to water conservation. Can you tell us about that and why water is important for PepsiCo?
So I think it's just to answer Tim's question, who uses the water? So I'm representing maybe the other side. So I'm from PepsiCo, we're a manufacturer, we're a producer, and how we use water, we interact with water in very different ways. So we're an F&B company. A lot of people might be familiar with our beverage portfolio. We have 7-Up, Pepsi, Aquafina, but actually the biggest bulk of our business is on the snacks portfolio. So we have the potato chips, the snacks, Lay's, Doritos, all those brands. In Saudi specifically, so we produce all our products locally. We source the material locally, and then we manufacture them locally and export out. So we interact with water throughout that whole process. And so between our manufacturing facility and the large agricultural footprint that we have, those are instances in which we interact with water. And we look at it in two different ways. There's water conservation and then water efficiency. Efficiency is something we pursue in our own manufacturing facility. We try to get our bottling partners as well on that journey with us. How can I reduce the amount of water that I use per unit of production? But then we also try to do efficiency in our agricultural network. So we work very closely with the farmers. We don't own the farms, but we work very closely with the farmers that supply our crops to make sure that we increase their efficiency from 2015, where we started, to 2030 by about 40%. So we're trying to increase efficiency for water usage in agriculture. Then there's water conservation, and that's a bit of a different story. So we looked at our facilities and we calculated how much water we use in our snacks facilities, and we tried to help other farmers save the same amount back into the watershed that we use annually in our facilities. We actually achieved this in Saudi this year for both the snacks facilities in Riyadh and Dammam, which was a really incredible project, and I'll tell you more about it in a bit. But I think as we were running these activities and as we were engaging in the markets, it's that question, who else is using the water? And we saw that many other private sector industrial companies were trying different things as well. Everybody's piloting, they're trying new innovations, they're looking for solutions, whether it's agriculture, manufacturing, whatever it is, but nobody's really talking together, and there wasn't really a forum. So this year, we rallied about 10 industrial companies, very different value chains, very different manufacturing styles and what they do. And we signed a voluntary pledge to the Saudi government. And Saudi government, of course, as you know, it's a very similar climate, and they have their own national water strategy and so on, really trying to pursue a lot of the amazing work that the UAE has already started. And so we got 10 companies, some of Tetra Pak, Unilever, us at PepsiCo, very different, and they all signed a commitment to try to apply the global best practices, to work very closely with each other and then with the government, but also a lot on education, raising awareness in the communities. We hope to use this as sort of a coalition. Mostly the focus is on innovation, how we can work together to try to find the right solutions to address the issues when it comes to water security.
That's amazing to hear. There is also an important role for activism, whether it's driven by corporates, individuals, or other parts of civil society. Sirim, I would love to hear more about Why Waste and its work.
First of all, hello everyone, and I'm the CEO of Why Waste, representing our organization here. Thank you, Aisha, for calling me and inviting me here. So when I talk about our journey, it began back in 2015, when our founder, Garvita Gulati, realized that around 14 million liters of water is simply being wasted by the glasses that are in the restaurants back in India. And so we decided to change this. We know that we had to change the mindset of people towards water conservation. So what we did initially was to onboard these individuals, especially the restaurant owners, and help them join our glass half full movement. So what we did in that moment was basically ask them to only serve a glass half full of water rather than the general thing where a full glass of water is being served. And with the help of our partners and other volunteers across India, we saved around 500, I think we prevented over 10 million liters of water from being wasted and reached over 500 restaurants. 500,000 restaurants, my bad, sorry. So, yeah. And later on in 2020, we realized the importance of climate education, especially, it has to be given at a young age to the children. So we published our book called The Sustainability Stories that talks about the different environmental issues, but not only about the problems, about the solutions as well. And it's all written in a cartoon format, making it easier for the children to consume. And with partners like the National Geographic, we distributed it across various schools in the districts of Karnataka. And I think our third pillar has always been innovation and technology, and especially with the boom that was coming in 2021. In 2022, we launched our application called the Why Waste app that allows an individual to calculate the amount of water that they are consuming on a daily basis, just like a water footprint. But not only giving them the usage, but also certain actions and challenges that they can take up so that they are able to save at least 100 liters of water on a daily basis. And now as I talk about it, we have recently partnered with UNICEF Maharashtra team, as well as the government of Maharashtra, to educate, especially the youth, about conscious consumerism of water, using our application, where the number accounts to 700,000, and we'll be having this program going on for around 2 years. Our aim was always to change the mindset of people when it comes to water conservation, because we believe everyone is part of the solutions. Yeah. So when you give them a small, aid to it, they'll start acting on it. And in future, we want to continue partnering with businesses and organizations so that we can act as a platform. Because we believe that, for example, if a young girl who has been born in the village of Rajasthan, where a mother has to go around 1.5 kilometers just to fetch water for daily consumption, what if she gets a platform, what we are able to cater her to her solutions in her area so that we can bring up grassroots leaders.
Thank you so much for also raising the point that water scarcity is a personal problem when it comes to women and girls specifically. You're such a great example of youth actionism, so thank you so much for those insights. You are all driving action in such important ways. I would love to turn our attention on how to unlock even greater change through the power of collaboration. What can we do to build upon one another's work? Claire, when we are looking at protecting freshwater basins in areas as diverse as the American Midwest to the Amazonian basins, what do you believe are the most promising paths forward? And considering where we are right now, what developments and commitments are you hoping to see at COP?
Thank you. That's a big question. Okay, so when you're working on water, you need to be working at multiple levels, and the locally led aspect of this is really important. So not just top-down policy, but also building the vertically connecting the layers of governance so that local solutions can also be scaled out, solutions that won't work at the local level because of policies can be tackled, those policy dilemmas can be resolved, and doing it, applying approaches in ways that actually incentivize that deep collaboration across the actors at each of those levels that will bridge the sectoral divides, which is often what's driving the challenges in water, that the authorities distributed across a lot of different actors. So innovating in policies is part of that solution set, and incentivizing smart water management by the private sector in the sort of ways that you've just been describing is exactly what we're hoping to see more of. Regenerative agriculture. Agriculture, of course, consumes 70% of fresh water, and it's critical for the resilience of food systems to begin to tackle the way that water is used within the food system to get a lot more efficient, so that we can see food production even in a drier year. Nature-based solutions, as I mentioned earlier, the CEO water mandate is all about benefit accounting for NBS, and is a big opportunity to engage with a range of corporates to unpack the pathways for nature-based solutions. And we've also got a tool, TNC's working with a number of partners, WRI and CI included, on a tool called NatureBase, which is there to support governments and corporates to understand what the pathways are for nature-based solutions for water management. And then finally, innovative financing and water funds, debt refinancing for climate and nature, green and blue bonds. These are all tools that have been being applied. TNC is involved in a number of initiatives, but it really needs much greater scale. So there's a huge opportunity for expanding how we think about financing. So we're repurposing the current flows for better, more water efficient and regenerative economies. But there's also a lot that we could be doing about repurposing harmful subsidies. So I would really like to see much stronger language on that globally. We've got some great examples of where this has been applied in different locations. Yep. So the Colorado Water Basin, for example, where there are a number of different solutions that are needed across the basin, and a number of different types of partnerships that are needed across that basin. But where you do begin to get that collaboration, you can begin to see real water savings. So we've seen 40 million people involved in water reduction activities, a lot of them within the agriculture landscape, that is massively reducing the water consumption of that basin currently.
Thank you so much for those insights. Tala, there has been strong representations of businesses at COP, and this provides a great opportunity for us to learn from best practices globally. Could you share some of the best private sector practices that you have come across, whether that's through your own work or the work of others? And what do you believe the main challenges or obstacles for innovation in this specific field?
So it's my first COP, and it's been great.
Oh, that's amazing to hear.
It's a lot more inclusive. As I hear, it's one of the largest, and so I've been really privileged to hear a lot of discussions about innovation and climate financing. It keeps coming up, innovative ways to finance some of the climate solutions. So I think I would say the best practices that I'm seeing is any private sector company that is trying to find innovative solutions, not necessarily within its system, but outside. So accelerators, hackathons, not to bring it back to PepsiCo, but I just came back from our own Arab Youth Hackathon, which we ran in 5 different countries. But I'm seeing so many examples. Microsoft have an amazing one. And it doesn't really matter what kind of company you are. You understand that there's only so far you can go alone, and the new ideas are still not yet founded. They're not still all out there. So I think that that I would cite as one of the best practices. For specific, like if I can talk about some of the limitations or challenges, so for sure, more collaboration, because no company can do it alone, no company can finance it alone, and all of that. So working more together. But I would also say education, and Why Waste is doing incredible work on the consumer front and behavioral change, and that's one part, but there's education goes across other parts as well. So there's educating government and influencing policies, advocating for that. And then I would zoom in specifically on agriculture. So we were just talking about this yesterday. So for agriculture, I think a big challenge for us so far in trying anything new has been reluctancy for adoption. So these farmers are very risk averse, and you don't blame them. Some of these farms have been in the same family for generations, and they've been working in a specific way on their solutions. And for you to come and introduce a new innovation or technology, it's a big risk, and they can essentially lose their entire season. So bringing the farmers along on that educational journey. So if I can give an example, the program I mentioned earlier, water conservation. So this year we went to Al Ahsa. It's a beautiful region in Saudi, very lush agricultural region, lots of date farms, so palm trees. And we worked with 3 farmers there, trying to move them from flood irrigation to drip irrigation. And so we got an irrigation partner. They did the analysis and the study. They really understood how to make that switch. We tried to do the education. And we started the program. Within a week, one farmer completely freaked out and stopped everything. He was like, I'm not seeing enough water. Go in. And they were wasting so much water. They were just flooding the entire, these are medium-sized to large-sized farms. And so there was just flooding all of the farms before. And he just stopped seeing the same amount on the surface. And he was like, I can't do this. I'm going to stop. And he stopped. And the other farmer kept switching for the first month between flood and drip irrigation just because he didn't really trust it. And then after a while, and after they start seeing the positive impact, you start to get the good kind of feedback, and people are more, they tell the other farmers, and then it kind of grows. But that takes a lot of patience. It's a lot of education. Yeah. I don't think the private sector can do it alone, but I think whoever has access should do it. And we see it in these innovative startups, agri-tech startups. Everybody's talking about AI and digital monitoring systems, and that's all really great. It's incredible. But then when you get, and if we're sitting here, we're talking about it, it's great. But then when you go to the farms, most of these farmers are like, no, I can't. You know, it's digital literacy, it's openness to try something new, but it's also sharing risk so that they don't have to carry the risk themselves.
Thank you so much. Sarim, youth have played a crucial role in driving climate commitments around the world, and their voices have been very present at COP28. How do you think we can get more young people involved in the issue of water scarcity specifically?
I think not only in the issues of water scarcity, but also in the issues of different climate crises that are coming up. So what I believe is, first of all, not to instill fear in them. When I talk about fear, you cannot just talk to them about the problems which are there. Now here comes the climate education factor, where you have to holistically use the power of storytelling and tell them not only about the problems, but also the solutions, especially the solutions that the youth have come up with, so that it inspires them to bring their own change and become a servant leader for tomorrow. And the second one would be not to give them a roadmap or a step-by-step approach that you follow this and you reach from goal 1, you complete goal 2 or goal 3. But what we should be given is an opportunity like COP28, where we can come up, collaborate with other young individuals, and talk about the different solutions that we have in our mind. Because I believe the youth have a very dynamic approach towards problem solving, and I think that should be utilized at the best.
Thank you so much. Tim, we know that water is a multi-dimensional problem. When it comes to getting more water to people who are in need in water-scarce communities around the world, what do you believe are the main levers for change that are available right now, and what needs to happen?
Thank you. Yeah, great question. So I think, well, I already talked a bit about governance, and I think everybody's alluded to the fact that, there are multiple users of water. So good coordination, good governance across those different entities is vital. So I'd say that's number one. And then I think also quite a few of us have already mentioned finance, but I think that's the second really vital area. Both, major investments are sometimes needed, and seeing a collaboration between the private sector and public sector, looking at blended finance solutions with good governance, in partnership with good governance. But the thing, an element that is often overlooked in this area is also the vital role of having financial flows to maintain water facilities. There are too many that fall into disrepair after only a small number of years. Yeah. So it's really important to get small-scale flows of finance from the different water users. And in WaterAid's experience, often people are worried about that. They think, well, why should the very poorest people have to pay for water? At the moment, the very poorest people pay the most for water because they have to buy it. They don't have it piped to their homes, and therefore they're having to buy it if they want to keep their family to avoid getting sick at like 100 times the price, 200 times the price. So a small-scale, affordable rate with some cross-subsidization for the very poorest families to get a connection to the water supply is often the best thing. And then the final thing I would say, youth and informed citizens, and particularly women, can be really wonderful agent for change in this area. We're loving seeing increasing role for women engineers as leaders, we often focus on women and girls as the sort of victims of the absence of water, but I think it's very important also to see women and girls as part of the solution.
Totally agree. Thank you so much. I would like to thank all our panelists for their insights and for giving us a glimpse into the vital work that they're doing in different ways to generate action on the urgent issue of water scarcity. Most importantly, I think the discussion today has demonstrated how important international collaboration is going to be in this growing effort. To that end, I look forward to working with many of you in the months and years ahead as we strive to address the challenge of global water scarcity and benefit the current and future generations. Thank you again. Thanks.